The Exorcist is one of the biggest horror movies ever made, but unbeknownst to many, it was actually partly based on a true story. On June the 1st, 1935, a baby boy was born into the world, but the rest of his life would forever be speculated. For decades, he would only be known as the pseudonym Roland Doe or Robbie Mannheim. During the 1940s, as the boy grew, his family lived in Cottage City, Maryland, when demonic possessions and exorcisms were frequently the topic of discussion in local newspapers. Roland grew up an only child, which led to him being incredibly lonely, relying solely on his parents as playmates. But he was always incredibly close with his aunt Tilly, though some reports name her as Harriet, though this is also unclear. Roland was incredibly close with Aunt Tilly, who was a spiritualist. He once allegedly found her Ouija board, which gained his interest in the undead. It was allegedly around the time the boy turned 13 or 14 years old when tragedy struck. Tilly tragically passed away, leaving him completely heartbroken. After her death, the family began to experience strange noises around the house. Furniture would move on its own accord, often leaving scratch marks on the floor, and objects such as vases would fly across the room completely on their own, but these would only happen when Roland was nearby. His bed would even supposedly move while he was fast asleep. These events began to escalate so much the family decided to seek help from Lutheran pastor Luther Miles Schulze, who was an expert in parapsychology. Schulze had the boy spend the night in his home for observation and claimed that he personally witnessed household objects and furniture moving entirely on their own in his presence, though some believe he exaggerated what he may have seen. Regardless, he did advise the boy's parents to seek help from a Catholic priest. He believed the boy was genuinely possessed by a demon. Edwin Hughes was a well-respected Roman Catholic priest, and he conducted the first ever exorcism on the boy known as Roland Doe, allegedly at Georgetown University Hospital. During this exorcism, Roland supposedly slipped one of his hands out of the restraints, broke a bed spring from underneath the mattress, and used it as a weapon to slash the priest's arm, which caused them to stop the entire exorcism. The family relocated to St. Louis, Missouri, where William S. Bowdern from the college church, who was also a Catholic priest of the Society of Jesus, was contacted. Both he and Hughes visited the family, where they witnessed Roland's bed shaking uncontrollably. Objects would fly around the room on their own, and the boy would speak in a guttural voice in an unknown language he was unfamiliar with. He would also react aggressively whenever he was subjected to anything sacred. Several tests were administered on the child, and it was concluded that there was nothing physically or mentally wrong with him. There was nothing scientific to explain his behaviour. Nothing abnormal was discovered whatsoever. At this point, Bowdern was granted permission to conduct another exorcism on the child at Alexian Brothers Hospital in St. Louis, Missouri, though this would later be known as South City Hospital. In just 2 months, Bowdern supposedly conducted more than 20 exorcisms on the child, the final one being on March the 9th, 1949. Bowdern was joined for this by Father Walter H. Halloran, Father William Van Roo, and Father Raymond J. Bishop. In total, 48 people claim to have witnessed some, if not all, of these exorcisms, and 9 were members of the Society of Jesus. Many of these witnesses claimed that the boy showed indisputable evidence of a true demonic possession. Much like the feature film, the boy's head supposedly twisted entirely around. He spoke in different languages, and words such as hell and evil supposedly appeared on his body as well. The mattress shook violently, and the boy even ended up breaking Father Halloran's nose. Regardless, the exorcism was completed and seemed to be a massive success. The whereabouts and identity of the boy remained a mystery for years. Only those involved, the priests, reporters and academics, were aware, but they managed to keep it secret to protect his identity. Stories circulated that he simply grew up to have a happy family, became a successful businessman, and forgot about this terrifying ordeal, while the world speculated if this truly was a real demonic possession or a troubled child screaming for attention. Father Raymond J. Bishop kept a diary about the ordeal, but refused to confirm or deny if it was a genuine case. No, I can't go on record. I never made an absolute statement about the things because I didn't feel I was qualified. But further things came to light that caused cracks in the case. The boy was described as a supposed bully at school, who always threw tantrums if he didn't get his own way or if he wanted a day off. This led to many believing he was just disturbed and wanted attention, managing to trick several priests in the process. There are no hospital records to confirm Halloran's nose injury, and the only confirmation of the events in the hospital that day is from the mouths of the 48 people present. The entire case was based on hearsay, especially considering the fact that not all 48 were involved from beginning to end. Someone who joined on exorcism number 20 would have had to rely on the reports from other people who were there from exorcism number 3, leading to possible inconsistencies to what may or may not have actually happened. It's also believed that the language the boy was speaking was actually Latin that he may have picked up from clergymen in his local church. So many of the reports from all of the witnesses seem to contradict each other frequently. Furthermore, the words that appeared on his chest may have actually been self-inflicted. Some reports claim that nobody bothered to check the boy's fingernails, while others claim they happened when his own hands were completely restrained and it happened inexplicably before their very eyes. Though it's worth noting that the marks would never appear in areas of his body that he wouldn't have been able to easily access. On one evening, the word Lewis was written on the boy's ribs in deep red scratches. Next, when there was some question of the time of departure, the word Saturday was written plainly on the boy's hip. As to the length of time the mother and the boy should stay in St. Louis, another message was printed on the boy's chest, 3.5 weeks. The printing always appeared without any motion on the part of the boy's hands. Furthermore, it's believed that the aforementioned newspaper articles on the possessions and exorcisms were actually posted by the family's former pastor, Luther Miles Schulze, which could have been him deliberately implanting the idea in the young child's mind. He appeared in a trance as the mattress shook, and there was a scratching which beat out a rhythm as of marching soldiers. A second-class relic of St. Margaret Mary was thrown on the floor. The safety pin was opened, but no human hand had touched the relic. R started up in fright when the relic was thrown down. Furthermore, many pieces of false information was leaked about the story, such as the boy's address, and the fact that nothing else could actually corroborate the priest's claims, which led people to believe the witnesses only believed what they wanted to see. They saw a mental illness and perceived it as evil due to their religious beliefs. They believed Roland just wanted to scare children in his neighbourhood, and even his own mother. Nothing that was reliably reported in the case was beyond the abilities of a teenager to produce. The tantrums, trances, moved furniture, hurled objects, automatic writing, superficial scratches and other phenomena were just the kinds of things someone of R's age could accomplish, just as others have done before and since. Indeed, the elements of poltergeist phenomena, spirit communication and demonic possession, taken both separately and especially together as one progressed to the other, suggest nothing so much as role-playing involving trickery. Father Raymond J. Bishop passed away in February of 1978, and Father Walter Halloran followed, dying of cancer on March 1st, 2005, the final remaining witness of the exorcism. it wasn't until December 2021, 72 years after the exorcism took place, we found out the true identity of the mysterious boy. It was actually discovered privately back in 1990, when priest Luther Miles Schulze confirmed his name, but it wouldn't be made public for another 31 years. The boy's real name was Ronald Edwin Hunkeler, who grew up to become an engineer for NASA. He worked on the Apollo space missions in the 1960s, and even assisted in the moon landing in 1969, though he retired from the company in 2001. This was all revealed by an unnamed 29-year-old female friend of his, but all the details were checked out, and it was confirmed. Once looking into Hunkeler's family tree, he did have an aunt by the name of Matilda Hendricks, who may have been the true identity of the deceased aunt whose death may have led to the paranormal activity. The unknown woman claimed that he grew up constantly paranoid and worried that people from NASA or his neighbourhood would find out about his past.
On Halloween, we always left the house because he figured someone would come to his residence and know where he lived and never let him have his peace. He had a terrible life from worry.
However, Ronald himself didn't believe that he was genuinely possessed, nor did he support any religious beliefs.
He said he wasn't possessed, it was all concocted. He said,
"I was just a bad boy." Despite this, many maintain that it was all legitimate. Sadly, this lady speaking out was a year after Ronald sadly passed away. He had 3 children, but over the years had become estranged from all of them. He died on May the 10th, 2020, just a month shy of turning 86 years old, suffering a stroke in Marriottsville, Maryland. His children didn't even attend the funeral. However, one thing this mysterious woman couldn't explain: a Catholic priest randomly showed up to his home shortly before his death to bless him.
I have no idea how the Father knew to come, but he got Ron to heaven. Ron's in heaven and he's with God now.
There's no explanation as to how or why the priest knew where Ronald lived or that he didn't have long left. Was Ronald Hunkeler really just a troubled child begging for attention? Or was this genuinely a case of demonic possession, with all of these witnesses' statements being 100% accurate? This experience led to one of the most successful movies of all time, but to those involved it seemed all too real, and the rest of the world remained seeking answers.